Good day, everybody. In today's content, we break down the potential leading diagonal contracting expanding structure for VELO. Do stay tuned. Nothing that I say is financial advice. Let's dive into the content. So please do excuse the mess in the background. I'm currently going through a massive sort of change in my gaffer. But looking at VELO here today, and before I actually dive into this leading diagonal structure, I just wanted to point out that as of November this month, we have seen an actual point of contact on the 050 at 0.0062, which does have the possibility to mark the low here. Failing to hold that in the short term, then 0.004 is my target. I have covered multiple potentials of a head and shoulders breakdown. You know, we are losing the support from sort of August, July of 2024. So what it looks like on the grand scheme of things, that the low will be placed between these two levels. I think the markets are still very indecisive, a little bit shaky at the moment for the short term. You know, heading into December, I think is more than likely where altcoins are going to be bottoming out, or at least, you know, forming a low through November and building a base around that into December. So at this moment in time, again, I'm a little bit stuck on the sidelines. I think we have a good chance to mark the low here at 0.006. But if we lose it, 0.004 is my target. Now, this target, or coming in for this level of support, is actually the retracement from 0.038 in this A, B, C correction. And what we're going to do now is look at the leading diagonal contracting expanding. Now, this is something that I've covered in many videos beforehand, and we're looking at this image on the right here, which is a leading diagonal contracting expanding A. So what VELO's actually done at the moment is form this massive 5-wave move up, which has created wave A. And at the moment, I believe we are in this B wave retracement. Now, within this leading diagonal structure, and what I wanted to break down is the actual sort of wave count. So in traditional Elliott wave theory, where we see a 5-wave move to the upside, if we look at wave 4, which is this correction here back in, if I scroll that over, July 2024, this wave 4 retraced deeper than wave 1. In traditional Elliott wave theory, the fourth wave can't retrace deeper than wave 1. So some people would look at this and say, well, it's not an actual, you know, Elliott wave theory or Elliott wave structure. But with the leading diagonal, there's an exception. And that's because, again, coming over to the right here, you'll see that wave 1 on this red dotted line, wave 4 can actually retrace deeper than the wave 1. Okay, and this is in the leading diagonal formation. So the actual leading diagonal is this 5-wave move up between support and resistance to create wave A. That's the actual leading diagonal structure. So what we're looking at here for VELO in regards to its leading diagonal structure is going from this part of the chart, okay, the all-time low, up to the 0.038 high. This in itself is the 5-wave move that creates the diagonal. Okay. And then at the moment, what we're going through in this section here, where we're in this retracement, if we look at the chart and on this screenshot, this is where we are. We are in this sort of B wave, or I believe we are, should I say, in this sort of B wave where the B retraces deeper than the 4. So keep up with me. Okay. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then a large correction, okay? Wave 4 can retrace deeper than wave 1. Very similarly to what we've seen on the chart here, okay? Wave 4 retraced deeper than wave 1. And then what happens is you get a wave 5, which is a little bit higher than the wave 3 peak. Just like we had here, we had a wave 5, which was a little bit higher than the wave 3 peak. And then you essentially lose support in this B wave. And this is where we are right this second, in this B wave, I believe, trying to form the low for this correction. So we've had our diagonal. The diagonal's formed from the all-time low up to 0.038. And right now we're coming in for the contraction. Okay, so we've had the diagonal into the contraction, which has the possibility, and in my opinion, to mark the low between 0.006 and 0.004, either or. Okay, we have a chance here at the 050. We do have a chance, guys. But failing that, then the C wave could extend back down to 0.004. And this is where the low could be marked, and we could be in a large A, B, C correction, which would mark this B wave on the leading diagonal before getting the expanded C, and that C wave takes me up to my 38 cents targets. Okay, so that's kind of the breakdown I wanted to look at today, and is the sort of macro outlook. I think looking into the lower time frames and watching day in and day out and checking your portfolio, it can be quite dangerous. Again, the last sort of 2 months has been very harsh for VELO, but it is pulling back from this 0.038 high back to the all-time low, and these are the key levels of support that we want to see hold. Now, the 050 and the 0618 in regards to the golden ratio and this sort of Fibonacci area are interesting areas of support. They're a trader's sort of paradise, and it works for both support and for resistance. So let's say, for example, price was crashing down. Okay, let's not look at, just take VELO out of the picture for a minute. And then it decides to start creating a low. Now, on the retracement, there will be the 0618 fib from this low back to this high. Excuse my terrible drawings. The 0618, let's just take that for example. This is the 0618. When the price goes from a low into that 0618, it's likely to come in for a correction. Okay, not necessarily back down to the low, but it will come back in for a correction, more than likely. And the same works with support. So if you've come up from a wave and then you're correcting, the 0618, again, 618, it's really weird drawing on a computer. The 0618 acts as a level of support for a bounce, okay? And so this is where VELO is. VELO is coming from a high, retracing back to the 0618 for support. It's not marked a low and then running up to the 0618 to correct. So at this moment in time, the 050 and the 0618 are areas of real significant interest. Is basically what I'm trying to say here. Let's get rid of those terrible drawings. And we have had the leading diagonal. You know, it looked really good when we was up here at 0.038. The sentiment was absolutely crazy, but it just wasn't the time, guys. And, you know, as data has unfolded and you can see this A wave, we lost support, and that support was actually lost in April. I just didn't view the chart in this sort of perspective, and I didn't expect it. That, you know, I was expecting support to hold at that period in time, but we move, we have to adjust. And this to me is just the massive spring, this sort of oval phase, this where we're in this corrective ABC back down to the support base. This is the spring that's loading for the expansion. And I honestly believe that pushing up to sort of 38 cents is where the C wave could get really impulsive. So technically speaking, what I'm looking at, because this is a contracting expanding ABC, the actual diagonal is the A wave. So between this vertical yellow line up to this vertical line, this is the A wave where we've had 5 moves up. Right now we're in the B wave and trying to mark the low between one of these two Fibonacci's, and then we get the final C wave expansion, which takes us up to that 38 cent targets. And that's why it's called a leading diagonal A, because the diagonal forms wave A, you then contract in wave B and get the expansion in wave C. Leading diagonal, contracting, expanding. 0.006 to 0.004, I believe, will hopefully mark the bottom. If anything changes, I will update you guys. From Chart Nerd TA, take care. Peace out.